Napoleon Bonaparte, 1769 to 1821, was a French military commander and political leader who rose to prominence during the French Revolution and led successful campaigns during the Revolutionary Wars. He was the leader of the French Republic as first consul from 1799 to 1804, then of the French Empire as Emperor of the French from 1804 until 1814, and briefly again in 1815. Napoleon's political and cultural legacy endures as a celebrated and controversial figure. Early life and education. Napoleon was born on the island of Corsica, which had been ceded to France by Genoa just a year earlier. He was the second surviving son of Carlo Bonaparte, a minor Corsican nobleman, and Letizia Ramolino, a strong-willed woman of peasant origin. Napoleon received a classical education at the Royal Military Academy of Brienne and the École Militaire in Paris. He graduated in 1785 and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the artillery. Military career. Napoleon's military career took off during the French Revolution. He quickly rose through the ranks, and by 1793 he was a brigadier general. He distinguished himself in the Siege of Toulon, where he helped to drive the British Royal Navy out of the port city. In 1796, Napoleon was appointed commander of the Italian army. He led a series of brilliant victories against the Austrians and their allies, which forced Austria to sign the Treaty of Campo Formio in 1797, ceding much of its territory in Italy to France. Coup d'etat and rise to power. In 1799, Napoleon returned to France and staged a coup d'etat, overthrowing the Directory and establishing himself as first consul. He ruled France with a firm hand, but he also implemented a number of reforms, including the creation of the Banque de France, the Napoleonic Code, and the Légion d'honneur. Emperor of France. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French. He embarked on a series of wars of conquest, which expanded the French Empire to include much of Europe. Napoleon was a brilliant military strategist, and he won many victories against his enemies. However, his ambitions eventually led to his downfall. Defeat and exile. In 1812, Napoleon launched a massive invasion of Russia. The invasion was a disaster, and Napoleon's army was decimated by the Russian winter and disease. In 1813, Napoleon was defeated by a coalition of European armies at the Battle of Leipzig. He was forced to abdicate the throne and was exiled to the island of Elba. Return and final defeat. In 1815, Napoleon escaped from Elba and returned to France. He was briefly able to regain power, but he was defeated by the British and Prussian armies at the Battle of Waterloo. Napoleon was exiled to the remote island of St. Helena, where he died in 1821. Legacy. Napoleon Bonaparte is one of the most controversial figures in history. He was a brilliant military leader and a skilled politician, but he was also a ruthless dictator. His legacy is still debated today, but there is no doubt that he was one of the most influential figures in European history. Napoleon's achievements. Napoleon led the French armies to victory in a series of brilliant campaigns during the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars. He expanded the French Empire to include much of Europe. He implemented a number of reforms in France, including the creation of the Banque de France, the Napoleonic Code, and the Légion d'honneur. He was a patron of the arts and sciences. Napoleon's failures. Napoleon's ambitions eventually led to his downfall. His invasion of Russia in 1812 was a disaster, and he was defeated by a coalition of European armies in 1830. He was a ruthless dictator who oppressed many of the people he conquered. He restored slavery to the French colonies. Conclusion. Napoleon Bonaparte was a complex and contradictory figure. He was a brilliant military leader and a skilled politician, but he was also a ruthless dictator. His legacy is still debated today, but there is no doubt that he was one of the most influential figures in European history.